In this edition of Idle Gossip, is there something about Cate? The stars just don't want to get out of bed. Before punk, before glam, Bowie. Getting a break in the big time is one big thing, especially if the break is a television gig. In the US, TV is a stopover on the long-haul journey to the bright lights of Hollywood town. Many have received their first break on a TV sitcom or daytime drama. Many have tried to use that notoriety to slingshot themselves into the movies. Unfortunately, some just don't get that far. Heather Locklear has been a television drama veteran since her teen years. Her name has been seen in the credits of many of the hit dramas of the past 25 years. Shouldn't that translate to a huge following and a career in the movies? Frankly, no. Of her few cinema-released films, First Wives Club is her most successful cinema release to date, and she wasn't even a supporting cast member. Heather, however, is always in demand on television, and she has often performed the role of producer for projects she's developed, so we've not heard the last of her by a long shot. Many have made mildly successful first steps in front of the movie cameras in Hollywood, but bad choices of role or crummy timing can bring the rise of a star to a crashing halt very quickly. Some TV stars simply don't translate to the big screen. Friends hottie Matt Leblac was set for leading man heaven with his role in Lost in Space as the hunky pilot Major Don West. The film experienced mild success, but Matt went back for a few more seasons as Joey in Friends, and Hollywood was put on hold. Were the offers second rate or something? Possibly not wanting to be the one to split up Friends until the network cancelled them. Hollywood may pay him some real attention now. Everyone loved Fran Drescher in her hilarious comedy The Nanny. Fran had been a true fringe dweller in entertainment after years waiting for a decent break for her sizable talent as a comedian. When luck finally dealt her a friendly card that saw her seated on a flight next to a television executive, she spent the best part of the flight giving an impromptu pitch for The Nanny, and luckily for Fran, he bought it.
Well, just for curiosity's sake, how'd it work with your last teacher?
6 years on TV and one dud movie later, Beautician and the Beast. Where's Fran? She's gone. Oh well, we'll always remember her as The Nanny, and there's always the reunion specials that somehow always find their way of being produced some years after the show is cancelled.
I knew it. Why can't you just ask one of them for direct?
There are too many failed attempts at crossing to the big screen to cover here, but one actor has become, in our opinion, the king of stymied attempts. We mean Luke Perry. Touted as the next big thing when he broke through in Beverly Hills 90210, Luke Perry has starred in several big-name movies, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Fifth Element to name the most successful, but it just didn't happen for poor Luke.
Don't do that if you don't mean it.
The hype couldn't carry him into that back room reserved for the A-listers, and he's perennially cast in B-grade, straight-to-video release movies, which is okay. Almost everyone who was on 90210 is doing the same thing. Some stars seem made for the big screen, and some only for the small. Getting a television role is one thing in the acting business, but making a break for the big time in Hollywood is the biggest gamble in an actor's career. Jessica Simpson once recalled, "The first day of 7th grade, I was very nervous. I was in history class and the teacher said to raise your hand if you know the continents. And I said, A-E-I-O-U. exciting! An opening. Hurry, hurry, call the fashion police. Leslie Ann Warren. Check out the costume pearls. Woohoo! Check out the bows. Hot cha! Don't lose the dress, honey. It's loose where it should be snug. This is the handbag of a tramp's daughter. Well, Geraldine Chaplin, actually. And she's just gorgeous in green. What else is crawling up the carpet? There's that dishevelled hair, that gritted grimace, and that guy who was in all the Disney movies when he was a kid. It's Goldie and Kurt. Yes, Kurt Douglas. Hang on, Kurt Russell. That's him. Ah, Goldie. She's got that just out of bed look, right down to the dress that looks like she could sleep in it if she wanted. Joan looking like the cat that got the cream in fur. Ew. And a stylish couple who are obviously recovering from seeing Joan up close. Hair-raising. That's never a problem for Bruce Willis. Don't tell Joan. She's ever so sensitive about her wig. Speaking of wigs, they've let Tina out again. But thankfully she's let her hair down tonight. Movie stars are fun, but I need to get my teeth into some real fashion calamities. Jamelia, just what I was talking about. She looks like she needs a nest and some eggs to sit on. Jake Shears from the Scissor Sisters. Is he the new Michael Jackson? Boo. Snoop Doggy, all I can say about this look is, how was jail, man? Daniel and Disco Sister. What a sweet, clean-cut young couple. All the same, it's not natural. Who's this suave fellow signing a thong? Good gracious, it's Robbie. I thought it was Vin Diesel looking much in need for a dose of steroids. That shaved look is severe, Rob. Wonder if he met Snoop on the inside, eh? Little Joss Stone. Now there's a good girl. Goes everywhere with her mum. Here she comes. Oh, now this is what mother-daughter dressing is all about. Gwen Stefani is everywhere at the moment, with her troupe of Ginza disco dollies. It's such a theatrical effect. Come on, Gwen, do a show. Reminiscent of Madonna at her best. Frills, knickers, corsets, blonde hair. Gwen does it right, all the way down to her gold platform shoes. Prior to the MTV Europe Awards, P. Diddy kept the press waiting for nearly an hour while he decided what to wear. He settled on a Dolce & Gabbana outfit. A production assistant later pointed out that Diddy had forgotten to remove the price tag from the bottom of one of his shoes.
Yeah, and the winner is, and the Moon Man goes to...
There seems to be a profusion of big-time actresses who share the same name. There's Kate Winslett, Cate Beckinsale, Kate Bosworth, and lastly, Cate Blanchett, who spells her name with a C, just to be different. This Kate is little Kate Bosworth. She was discovered by casting assistants on task for Robert Redford, who was making The Horse Whisperer. Kate attended a cattle call audition with only a couple of amateur credits to her name and miraculously was cast in a supporting role. Only 14 at the time, Kate didn't pursue her acting career for another 18 months, wanting to maintain some sort of normal life while still a girl.
Yeah, then we'll go. We gotta turn what's in that briefcase.
Pretty, blonde, and with eyes coloured differently, one blue, one hazel. Kate won the role of Sandra Dee in Beyond the Sea with Kevin Spacey, and definitely looks set for future female leads, even though she has never trained dramatically.
I mean, have you ever even acted before? Well, I'm learning, but let me tell you something, Blondie. You're not exactly Audrey Hepburn.
Not undertaking formal acting training is rarely a stumbling block for movie performers. Cate Beckinsale, one of our 2 English Cates, elected to go to Oxford University over drama school while still pursuing acting on the side. She attracted the attention of Kenneth Branagh, and he cast her in Much Ado About Nothing. Her career was based in London, and she starred in a string of British films before replacing Charlize Theron in the lead role of Pearl Harbor and catching the eye of US movie makers.
I did Underworld, where I'd never done any action or stunt training or anything.
Gentlemen, you will now be disarmed.
You can try.
Suffering from a bout of anorexia in her teens, Cate added 10 pounds to her slim form for her role in Van Helsing, and yet another 10 to play curvaceous Ava Gardner in The Aviator.
When I was in costume and hair and makeup, I felt really voluptuous and pretty and attractive. And then when I went home, I just felt like I'd gained 20 pounds so I can get my jeans on.
You marry me?
Which brings us to a different kind of Cate, one that spells her name with a C. Ms. Blanchett from Oz, born in Melbourne and a graduate of Australia's National Institute of Dramatic Arts. Cate made waves in the British film Elizabeth, playing Queen Elizabeth I, for which she won Best Actress at the Golden Globes. Nominated for an Oscar but losing to Gwyneth, Cate was now one to watch. She has been compared to Meryl Streep for her versatility and confirms this with her role as Katharine Hepburn alongside another fellow Cate in The Aviator. Cate's most recognised role to date is Lady Galadriel in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is a role she accepted due to her desire to play a character with pointed ears. True story. The last lovely Cate is Kate Winslett, who when Titanic broke was a big screen beauty with her Rubenesque form. The only female under 30 nominated for an Oscar 4 times, it's only a matter of when will she be awarded. For this, Cate's performance record is stunning.
Oh, don't cry, Dina.
Also discovered by Kenneth Branagh, and then cast by Peter Lord of the Rings Jackson in Heavenly Creatures. It was her role in Titanic as Rebellious Rose that cemented her in movie history. She has never tried to make herself queen of the world and top the success of the film in another role, but always chooses ballsy parts that will expand her horizons personally and as an actor as well. The exposure she received in Titanic could have well made her a has-been before her time, but roles in eclectic films has kept her public image much smaller. So, is there something about the name Cate that makes them headstrong, beautiful, talented actresses? Maybe not. But if you're not afraid to have an actress in the family, name your daughter Cate. And just wait and see if the acting bug bites. Honestly, they're just the same as us. The stars, I mean. They have their days when they just don't want to get out of bed. Normally, that's when they blow a few thousand on some therapy, or heaps more on a trip to Betty Ford. But the stars have their problems all the same. Take Liz Taylor. Oh, poor old Dame Liz. A horse riding accident on the set when very young has created a chronic back injury, and she has spent the last few years almost a recluse, only popping out for AIDS charity events, which she bravely soldiers on for, or for the odd wedding, like Liza and David's odd wedding. In hindsight, I bet she's wishing she'd stayed in bed on that day too. Kirstie Alley. Well, what can we say? She's as big as a house. She can't seem to get any work due to her weight gain. Even Weight Watchers is rumoured to have put her on a no-go list. Such a shame, because she's a fantastic actress. But with her weight yo-yoing like it does, leaves her having to call her dressmaker saying, "I've put on the pounds, let out the gowns."
We're having a great time. We're having a great time.
I really feel for Tupac Shakur.
I got shot.
For starters, he's dead. He should be in a better place. But there are people out there who just won't let him rest in peace. Every 6 months, another posthumous album of lost rap tracks surfaces. Now there's a documentary on his life called Tupac Resurrection. Leave the poor fellow be and move on.
Do you think you'll ever get to the point where you can live a
Courtney. She can't seem to keep out of court. She recently won custody of her child Frances Bean after a legal wrangle involving her own drug abuse, but now has a financial battle on her hands. The recording studio in France where she recorded her last album claims she has not paid for the studio time and wants her to cough up big bucks. She's intending on writing her life story to raise the cash and has sold her New York home as well. That's family life in the world of rock and roll. Makes you wonder how Liv Tyler turned out so well. Things are no better for Mariah Carey, who has reportedly gone through the $28 million Virgin Records paid her in 2001 to end her contract. After tax, it was said to have been whittled down to $16 million. A tidy sum, but Mariah couldn't curb her lavish lifestyle and supposedly is skint. Terrible. Let's hope the next album smells of roses, because that movie she made will always stink.
Hey, this is Kelly Osbourne. I heard the great.
Are the cracks of show business life starting to show for the Osbournes? Kelly has struck out at Mum Sharon after an appearance together at the Brit Awards, where Sharon apparently played hot to the cameras after one glass of alcohol. Kelly spat, Mum gets pissed after one glass of wine. She's always performing and always strikes the same pose. Perhaps the stress and strain of working together and being related is too much for the young diva. Perhaps she has forgotten which side of her bread the butter is on. But as Sharon has dealt with nastier types a lot longer than her own daughter, common sense suggests someone will be put back in their place soon after the last light bulb flashes. Yes, whether domestic, financial, legal, or just belly up, the stars have their troubles too, and hearing about them can sometimes make us feel that little bit better that we're not them.
Andy's close second. Andy's certainly the best kisser of the bunch.
Well, hello.
Look who's here.
Dolly.
Shortly before a dinner party in Malibu one day, Barbra Streisand broke one of her fingernails. Her response? She visited her favourite nail salon in Beverly Hills. Total cost of the emergency repairs and the chartered helicopter which flew her there? $9,000. Before gender bending, before punk, before glam, there was only one word on everybody's lips: David Bowie. He is considered the most influential rock artist of that decade and completely changed the face of rock and roll. Born in suburban London in 1947, David Bowie started life as Davy Jones and began playing saxophone in a band at the age of 16. He dreamed of a future as a successful musician. Knowing that a high profile was the key to stardom, he'd do anything to get press attention, like this interview on 1960s primetime BBC.
It's all got to stop. They've had enough. The worms are turning. The rebellion of the long hairs is getting underway. A 17-year-old, Davy Jones, has just founded the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Men. Now, exactly who's been cruel to you?
Well, I think we're all fairly tolerant, but for the last 2 years we've had comments like darling and can I carry a handbag?
Another Davy Jones from America was just making it big at the time, so David adopted the name Bowie as a reference to the American knife and also as a metaphor for himself being an artist on the cutting edge. He went from band to band, spent a stint as a mime artist, and then with excellent timing released a song in 1969 that would literally take him to the stars. The song was Space Oddity.
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade.
David Bowie was big, but not as big as he would be in 1972 with his reinvention of himself as Ziggy Stardust. Creating a character on stage and off, Ziggy was an androgynous spaceman come to Earth and, backed by the Spiders from Mars, took the world music scene by storm. The 70s belonged to Bowie. Tiring of the Spaceman act, he dramatically killed off Ziggy by disbanding the group on stage and continued on with his solo career, inventing new alter egos to perform his music through.
I'm very much a character when I go on stage, I feel. I mean, I
like an actor?
Yeah, I believe in my part all the way down the line, right the way down. But I do play it for all it's worth, because that's the way I do my stage thing. That's part of what Bowie's supposedly all about. I'm an actor.
In the 80s, David peeled off his musical skin to become a stage actor, touring in The Elephant Man and appearing in film.
I'll be back. If aren't flowers again. Cross my heart.
He went on to some great and some rather posy performances in Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, The Hunger and Labyrinth. His music becomes more commercial than ever with his 1980s releases, all selling successfully, but the critics generally pan him embracing electronica. David Bowie still keeps in touch with the sound of each generation.
It's big and it's flat, full of tension and fear.
He meets and marries supermodel Iman and performs cameos in more movies in the 1990s. He becomes one of the first major rock artists to embrace the internet and performs the first webcast concerts in 1998. Most likely to be one of the ageing rockers of the 20th century who will continue performing well into what most call retirement age. David Bowie will go down in history as the changeling of rock, pop and soul.
I'll survive your naked eyes. I'll survive.